Hi there, it's Natasha and thank you so much for joining me today. Paper Smooches recently had a little sale on their website, so I purchased a couple of things, and one of them was this stencil because I love a stencil that I can see many uses for, and this is the Winter Scene stencil, but obviously it doesn't have to be winter. I am going to start off using some Pinecone ink. This is the VersaFine Clair. Then some light green, which is the Verdant, and then the darker green, which is the green Oasis color. I've been doing a lot of ink blending with the VersaFine Clair inks recently. These are a pigment ink. These are a oil-based water-resistant ink, so that means that once they are dry, they are permanent. They won't be reactive with water. And I had not really thought about using them for ink blending much, but once I started using them, I really like the way that they blend, and they blend nice and smoothly. So I am using a little bit of masking tape to mask off the different parts of the stencil that I don't need. I'm working from the top down of the stencil just so that the bottom will become much lighter there, and I have created myself the first of two hills that I'm going to have. I'm creating a little scene card today for a little boy's birthday. Now, obviously, if you don't have this stencil, I will link to everything down below in case you're interested. However, it would be just as easy to kind of cut these patterns out yourself, or if you have dies that are like the trees that are similar, then you could definitely just cut them out of some cardstock or some lightweight plastic or something and create your own stencil. So just use what you have in your stash to make it work. But I did pick up, I think they had a 50% off or 40% off sale, and so I picked up a few things here that I thought might be fun to add to my stash. So this was one of them, and once I have my little hill sorted, I've got a couple of them there, I'm going to add in some trees to the side. Now I'm going to be using the exact same ink. I'm just going to press a little bit heavier so that I get a nice dark coating. And there is two different sized little tree trunks there, so I've got one of each. Then I'm just going to reuse my masking paper and section off the parts that I need to create this big tree. Now I went in here, and also my placement skills are clearly not very good, which I find out once I take my mask off, but I'm going in with the light green first of all, and then I'm going to add just a really light layer of the dark green. Now I kind of go around the outside, and then I end up coming back in just a minute and adding another layer just because I felt like it was a little bit too bland. But you can see I didn't even line up my trunk with my tree there. So I'm just going to lower the stencil down a little bit and fill that in with the dark green, and you would never know. I'm going to add just a tiny little bit of dark green to the kind of layers where the trees go out to their larger layer, and I'm pretty happy with that. Then I'll just do a very similar thing with the smaller tree, which is kind of meant to look like it's more so in the background, but you could definitely add a lot more detail to these trees, but honestly they do become kind of a background feature, so it didn't bother me too much at all. Once I've done that, I wanted to create a sky, but not a kind of traditional sky. I have this stencil here, which I can't remember who makes it at the moment, but I'll see if I can find a link to it. And I'm going to use the Paradise, which is just a lighter blue VersaFine Clair ink. Now I'm going to scrub off most of the ink because I don't want a really dark background sky here. Now I know that kind of seems like a waste to kind of scrub off the ink, but I want to know how much ink is on my finger dauber. And because these finger daubers get used over and over again, sometimes they will be more loaded when I put them back into their storage case than others. So I really want to know just how much is on there because I want this to be nice and light and fade into the background. I kind of had fun doing a slightly different pattern. It reminded me of clouds a little bit, but it was fun to do a stencil rather than just the usual cloud borders that I usually use to create a sky background. Now this little cute dinosaur here is going to be one of the main features of my card, and he is called Dinosaur. He's obviously a just one piece die that you can die cut out in several colors. You could just die cut it in one color, but it definitely gives him a little bit more dimension and brings him to life if you die cut him in a few colors and then do some paper piecing. So for me, what I find the easiest thing to do is to kind of use one of the outlines here and trace it onto a piece of copy paper or just really thin scrap computer paper. And then I use a pencil to kind of trace the inside just really quickly. Doesn't have to be perfect. No one is going to see this part. This is just to help me do the paper piecing. And then when I zoom around, I really ignore most of the kind of finer details. I just want to go around there and make sure that I've got the kind of rough outline of how this little dinosaur is going to be, because I don't want any of the white to be poking out the side either. So I did do his little spikes down his back so that that gives me something to attach those to, and then his two little legs down the bottom, because his little feet or toes are a separate part as well. Then once I have that part done, you can do a couple of things. This is a permanent adhesive roller, or you could use some just double-sided adhesive tape, or you could have covered this in some double-sided adhesive like the one Stick-It adhesive or the one from scrapbook.com, or any sort of double-sided adhesive before you even cut it out. So there's a couple of options. And then once I have got the adhesive on there and I peel it off my fingers, I am ready to go. So I'm going to start with the outline of the dinosaur. However, I don't want to push this down too hard, because with such a fine line of the outline, it's kind of often easy to distort how it kind of should be. So once I put in this next layer here, the kind of more solid layer of the dinosaur, I will be able to adjust the outline so that it kind of fits perfectly with how the shape was meant to be. You could also do it the other way around. Either is fine, doesn't really matter. So you can see I can just lift it up here gently because I didn't push it down, and make it fit in nicely with the outside there. Then I'm just using this wax pencil. These pencils are super cheap, like 30 or 40 cents. And they are so good. I think they're meant for nails, like in a nail salon. However, they have the perfect amount of stick that I can just pick up the die cuts, and then they release nicely when they find the adhesive. And I also use it when I'm using liquid glue and things, and they work really well. So I use this instead of a pickup tool or things like that. Then my little dinosaur is complete, and he's looking pretty cute. I'm pretty happy with how he turned out. I am using my favorite, as you guys will know, little stamp set. This is the All the Little Things stamp set, and I'm just going to stamp it in some VersaFine Onyx black ink, which is a black pigment ink. And all I want is the word your. Now, I always stamp out a couple, because no doubt I will either cut one wobbly or not straight. I will always do something to it, so I always stamp out a couple. Then I used 2 different shades of yellow and some alphabet dies to cut out the word "You're Rawsome," which is hopefully, obviously, meant to be a play on the word awesome. So I'm going to fit it all in here, and sometimes I just find it easier to make the letters go up and down and wiggly all over the place, rather than lining them up perfectly, and then that way no one really knows if they are how they're intended to be, because it doesn't matter. You can't see if they are wobbly or straight. I'm just using some liquid glue here. This is the Ranger Multi-Medium in the matte finish, and these are some little glue bottles that I get from AliExpress, and I have a video on my channel on how to fill these if you are struggling. I've had quite a few messages recently on how I go about filling those up, so there's a video on my channel called How to Fill a Glue Bottle that you will be able to find to help you out there. And then just a few finishing touches. I'm going to pop up my little dinosaur on some foam squares, foam tape or fun foam. They would all work the same here. And then pop him up on one of the little hillsides. I've got my little your sentiment popped up on a piece of foam as well. And then just because I couldn't help it, I put a little green googly eye on top of my dinosaur as well. And I thought he was pretty cute looking. In the middle, I'm going to stamp the happy birthday sentiment, because I felt like the front was pretty well covered, and I'm going to stamp it in some of that dark green, green Oasis color, which is the same color that I used for the trees on the front of the card. Then I am just going to pop this onto a Nina Solar White 110 pound card base, and it is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and this little front panel here is going to take up the whole front of the card at 4 1/4 and 5 1/2, and that is my card finish for today. I hope you like this little cute card and get some inspiration. There will be some links down in the description box below in case you're interested in anything. I really appreciate you watching, and I really look forward to seeing you guys in the next video.